The sermon today, a lot of you got a text from me yesterday that you didn't understand, and that's cool. It's notes for today. I have a lot of stuff I need to cover today. It's going to be moving so quickly, I want to give you a chance to have a few notes in front of you. We're going to have them up here on the screen, but this is the one Sunday that you're going to be allowed to do this, okay? If you want to have your phone out, you can either go to the church website or you can go to my Instagram page and you'll get the notes that are going to be up here on the screen here in just a moment. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, it's Pastor Tim Benjamin, no spaces. You can look me up there. You can find it on the church website if you would like to get on and kind of have the notes there in front of you as we're going to be reflecting together on 2019. So it's there. If you want to go get it, it's available, or I'll have it in the email when it goes out tomorrow. All right, our scripture lesson for today is going to come to us from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 to 15. For everything there is a season and a time for every activity under heaven. Time to be born and a time to die. Time to plant and a time to harvest. Time to kill and a time to heal. Time to tear down and a time to build up. Time to cry and a time to laugh. Time to grieve, time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones. Time to embrace and a time to turn away. Time to search, a time to quit searching. Time to keep and a time to throw away. Time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be quiet, a time to speak. Time to love, a time to hate. Time for war, and a time for peace. What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all. Yet God made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I concluded there's nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. People should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. And I know that whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear Him. What is happening now has happened before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the same things happen over again. Here is the reading. I'm sure that all of you out there today are familiar with the Serenity Prayer. It's a popular prayer in artwork and social media and different places. And the Serenity Prayer goes like this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's a simple prayer, and it's all about peace of mind. So here we are on the last Sunday of 2019, and I would like to have my annual sermon on New Year's resolutions, which I always do on this Sunday. So along with that resolution to lose weight that I know everybody's going to make, I want you to take these next couple of days until we embark upon 2020 to take seriously setting out some goals for the new year. Well, that didn't go well, now did it? So take seriously setting out some goals for the new year. What are we going to spend the next 12 months working on? How are you going to better yourself? What steps can you take to be in a different place in your life and in your walk with Jesus when we get to the last sermon of 2020, which will be a mere 52 weeks from today, which is not as long as you think. And I want to have this conversation about resolutions around this poem that was written by King Solomon, a man who was reputed to be the wisest man who ever lived. As a child, he asked God for wisdom, and God granted his request. He became incredibly bright, obviously very full of wisdom. And with his God-given wisdom, he wrote us a little poem that I read to you here from Ecclesiastes 3. The message of this poem is balance. Life is best when it's in balance. And I believe that was Solomon's reason for writing this poem. So in this poem, there are 14 balance points. Solomon's poem tells us that the truth is that God created time for everything. That means that there's something on this list, on either one of these sides of this list, that we're not experiencing, it's because we're not taking the gift of the time that God gave us and making good use of it. Because God gave us time for it all. So how do you know? How do you know that you have a part of your life that's out of balance? It may not seem like it's out of balance to you because that's normal for you to be way out of whack on a certain line. But what I want to spend the next few minutes talking about with you is, how do you know if you are in or out of balance? And that's why we have the chart here. You see it. I listed out all 14 lines in Solomon's poem, all 14 Solomon's balance points. And in parentheses next to each one, I put an experience. And what I want you to spend the next 3 days until 2020 begins, I want you to spend that reflecting on 2019 and ask yourself a very sincere question. Any one of these two sides, did you spend too much time on one side or the other in these experiences that are here? Meaning, were you lonely? Were you selfish? Did you have experiences where some personal boundaries could have saved you from something bad? Does life feel hollow? Do you struggle with animosity? These are all signs that something in your life is not in balance. And the way we return balance to an area of your life that is out of balance is we make some resolutions on the opposite side of the poem. And you have to figure out what the specifics of that look like and how they work in your own situation, because this poem is actually the broad framework to help us evaluate our lives. Example, is your life cluttered? Then you're going to need to make some resolutions about throwing things away. Are you burned out? Then you're going to have to make some resolutions about things that are torn in your life. Do you have moments of aggression? Then you're going to need to make some healing resolutions. That's how I'm using this poem today. And the reason I want you to have this chart, and I know it's a little tough to read up here on the screen, I want you to have this chart is because I'm going to go through this very quickly because there's a lot here. I want you to have time to thoroughly think through these lines that we have here. So as I quickly go through these, kind of point out how they work and explain them, I want you to make note, because some of them are going to resonate with your experiences, some of them are not. And the places where this resonates with you are places where you waste a lot of time. So I want you to pray about them during this week. I challenge you then to write your resolutions based on this list and put it in a place where you're going to see it often. See, I want your resolution to be about balancing any of these 14 areas of your life that may currently be out of balance. And as you make notice of the places where you might struggle, I want you to sincerely pray about these areas. And maybe you can find somebody who cares about you to help keep you accountable to working on these things. Because being out of balance is not healthy. It is a hindrance. It's not good. So the purpose of this poem that Solomon wrote, and the purpose of this sermon that we're about to experience together, it's about healing and wholeness. You cannot have healing and wholeness without balance. So there's the list, and it's going to be available to you if you want it. I hope you'll take it seriously. So let's work our way through this. First, do you know that you struggle with, or do people tell you that you are immature? You need to grow up emotionally so that you can be an adult when you need to be. If so, then you need to make some resolutions about death, and allow me to explain what that means. By that, I mean you need to identify that we only have so much time here on this earth. You need to set some goals. You need to make good use of the time that God gave you, because time is so limited. If you're wasting that much time on things that are destructive and unproductive, then your life is out of balance. On the other hand, do you struggle with being hopeless? Then you need to see, do you need to see the lighter side of life? If so, you need to make some resolutions on the other side. Find some fun stuff to do. Is this world a difficult place? Absolutely it is, but God has no desire that we live there in the difficulty. You need to take time to experience the joy of being alive. That is what it means to be born. You have to make some resolutions to lighten up. Next, was 2019 a year that was filled with fatigue? Were you tired? Was it all about pouring out and investing with no return? Then you need to make some resolutions about harvesting. You need to do some things that will provide a return, even if you have to do them for yourself. Now, if your life is filled with selfish people, I'm going to talk about them in a second, you may not have anyone who is willing or able to pour into you. If so, that's why you're fatigued. And you're going to need to make some resolutions about how to provide a harvest for yourself, or else the fatigue will remain. On the other hand, if all you do is harvest and no planting, that comes across as selfish. If 2019 was completely focused on you without regard to anyone else around you, then you're going to need to make some resolutions about planting. How can you sow into others? That is the antidote to selfishness. Aggression. Do you have a problem with aggression? Now, aggression can come across in many phases of your life. Do you have a big personality? Are you heavy-handed in how you approach things? Then these are some things that you're going to need to make resolutions about healing. Healing is how we curb aggression. Because there are some things in this world aggression is very good for. I'm about to talk about them in a second. But healing is not one of them. Healing is a specific way of looking at the other people. If you are overly aggressive in how you approach life, then you're going to need to make some resolutions around healing. On the other hand, are you broken? Heartbroken? Then you're going to need to make some killing resolutions. And by that I mean, you're going to need to go forward with some aggression. A little aggression is self-confidence. And if you feel broken, that's exactly what you need. What does a broken heart want to do? It wants to lay down and die. If you're feeling that, then you're going to need a few aggressive resolutions that will do you some good. Next, did life go nowhere in 2019? Are you bored, stagnant? Then you need to make some building up resolutions this year. If your life is going nowhere, then you need to resolve to change it. What are you going to build this year to give your life some meaning, some purpose, some direction? If you're stagnant, then you need to look at doing something instead of waiting for something to happen. Go make it happen. Make a resolution to go build something. On the other hand, doing all the building with no tearing down leads to scarcity. Are you living on bare minimums? Do you have a ton of half-done projects around your house? That is scarcity. What you need to do is make some resolutions about tearing some things down so that you'll have the time and resources you're going to need to actually complete something. My friends, going 10 directions at once means you aren't going anywhere. You need to do some tearing down so that you have time, space, and energy to complete something that you started. Don't pick 20 things, pick one. Next, did you spend 2019 feeling negative? Are you especially gifted at seeing the downside of life? Then you're going to need to make some resolutions to laugh. Make some resolutions to put yourself in a situation where you can see the bright side of life. Make some resolutions that are going to lift you up. Sure, life is hard, I get that. But life is not all bad. It's not all down. Make some resolutions to help yourself see that. On the other hand, are you oblivious? That means you're completely unaware and completely out of touch with what's going on around you. Is life all about having fun no matter what the cost is? Is life is only about doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, for whatever reason you want? Then you're going to need to make some resolution and take on some challenges. You need to get involved in something that may be difficult, and it might lead to tears. In having these challenging experiences, you'll become more aware of yourself, and you'll become more aware of the world around you. But that will only come if you'll take on the challenge. Next, was 2019 filled with grief? Maybe grief that you caused yourself, maybe grief that was forced upon you. Grief can come from lots of places. So if you spend a lot of time in despair for any reason, then maybe you need to make a resolution to dance. Does that mean to literally dance? Maybe. But you need to do something that brings you joy and realize, hey, it's okay to smile. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to have fun. Not all the time, but if you spent 2019 drowning in despair, you probably don't need to worry about overdoing this one. All right? Make some resolutions. Go find some joy, and whatever that means to you. On the other hand, is life all about dancing? Perhaps even dancing around issues rather than dealing with them. Did you spend 2019 avoiding things you should have been dealing with? Then you're going to need to make some hard resolutions to some of the issues that you face. Now, is that going to cause you to grieve? Is that going to cause you to experience despair? Probably. Will it make dancing a little harder to do? Yes. But any of you who have been practicing avoidance for any length of time already know that avoiding something is not a permanent solution to anything. So maybe it's time to face up to it. Next, Were you an island all to yourself in 2019? Were you estranged from your family and friends? Was 2019 a difficult year to connect to others? Then you need to make some resolutions to gather together. You spent so much time scattering that now you're separated. Make some resolutions to gather together during 2020. On the other hand, was 2019 bland? Was it devoid of color and meaning? Was it uncreative and boring? That's a sign of too much gathering. You see, when you gather, you're going out to look for something specific. That's why you're gathering it. So if you spent 2019 desperately searching for something you never found, it's possible that that is something that God's not ready for you to have yet. Maybe it's time to scatter out, to search in new places, to see different things. If you spent 2019 trying to gather stuff and never found that satisfying, then maybe it's time to set some resolutions to go gather something else in 2020. All right, next. During 2019, did you struggle with getting involved in things you should not have been involved in? Were there places that you went that you should not have gone? Were there people you were with you should not have been with? Were there situations you were involved in you should not have been involved in? Then you had no boundaries. You embraced anything and everything. Friends, you need to set some boundaries on turning away from things that you should not be a part of, things that you probably should have already turned away from. Set some boundaries by turning away before it's too late. On the other hand, were you lonely? Loneliness is a symptom of turning away too much. You need to make some resolutions to embrace more. Now, I don't necessarily mean go find someone to embrace, because if you're lonely, that's the last thing you need to head out there looking for. I mean, embrace a new hobby. Embrace a new membership somewhere. Embrace a new social circle by having new experiences in new locations. Go out and try something different and embrace something that may be a little different from what you're used to. Next, did you spend a lot of time searching for something in 2019? That's been my experience, that if you spend a lot of time searching, it's because you become very good at losing things. That is the very definition of irresponsibility. You need to make some resolutions on giving up the search before it starts. You need to do what you can so that you aren't wasting a lot of time and effort doing something that never should have happened in the first place. Perfect example. Give up 5 seconds to put your car keys in the designated place. Save yourself that frantic 5-minute hunt before you have to go somewhere, right? Make a resolution to make that happen. Now, on the other hand, have you given up too much? That will lead you to a sedentary life. A life spent living vicariously through characters on the TV. If you struggle with just giving up and crashing on the couch, then you need to make a resolution to search. If you have a physical problem that causes you that much fatigue or makes you unable to get out and move, then resolve, I'm going to find an answer to this. I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to find out what's going on so I can get up and get out there. To sit there and do nothing is to give up, and that is never okay. Next, and I can dispense with this one very quickly. Too much clutter in your life. Do you spend too much time keeping? That's pretty self-explanatory. I need you to make a whole bunch of resolutions to throw away a whole bunch of stuff in 2020. All right? On the other hand, is life hollow? Have you spent too much time throwing things away? I mean, this could be about the physical stuff that you own, but most likely there are some people, some opportunities, some circumstances that you have thrown away that you shouldn't have. Some of that stuff that you're throwing away might be stuff you're going to end up wishing you had back. You need to make some resolutions to see what all those people, opportunity, circumstances that you keep throwing away, look at them. Make some resolutions. I'm going to examine this stuff and see what the good Lord might want me to keep in the midst of all this. Next, was 2019 a disappointing year? Disappointment can come from lots of places. Disappointment can be in yourself. You could be disappointed with relationships. You could be disappointed with your situation in life. You could be disappointed in God. Disappointment can come from lots of places. If you are disappointed today, then you need to make some resolutions to mend, to make something healthy come out of a bad situation. If you're disappointed, Friends, know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you find yourself disappointed today, disappointment is one of the biggest things in life that you cannot get out of that hole by digging. Stop digging. Make some resolutions to mend rather than dig the hole deeper. Because whatever you're disappointed in, try to mend it as best you can. And some of that mending may be about mending and healing yourself. On the other hand, too much mending can cause you to burn out. If you are concluding 2019 and you feel burned out, then you need to make some resolutions that some things are just torn and that's going to have to be okay. You can't fix everything. And to try to fix everything will result in you being burned out. If that's where you are today, you need to make some resolutions about some stuff that's torn. It's just going to stay torn. Next, was 2019 a time when you felt muted? Were you silenced? Were you unheard? Now, we're going to see in the moment that there are some people who struggle to hear other people. But if you feel like you have lost your voice, I have to ask you, did you try to speak up? Did you try to be heard? You may need to make some resolutions to speak up in situations where you feel you have no voice. On the other hand, if all you do is speak, then you are indifferent to the people around you. You don't care what other people are doing or what they're saying because all the space around you is filled up with words. So if you are an extrovert, meaning that you process by talking, that's okay. Just make a resolution that there's going to have to be some quiet time in there. Allow some of the people around you to speak so they can be heard as well. And remember, it is not communication if you're doing all the talking. Keep that in mind. All right, was 2019 a year of you be you and it's all cool? Again, I'm not encouraging you to become judgmental, but I am saying, friends, there has got to be standards. As our society continues to challenge things that we used to think were self-evident, we need to be very careful that we don't just get rid of all the standards in the name of love. It isn't loving in any way to accept self-destructive behavior. Perhaps a few resolutions on setting some standards that we expect from other people to be responsible, and we expect them to live up to that. Those kind of resolutions may not be a bad idea. On the other hand, if you have lived through 2019 and you today are sitting here and you define yourself by what I hate, then you've had a 2019 filled with animosity, and you might want to ease up on that and show some love. Judgment is sometimes necessary, but without showing love, judgment just looks harsh. And we see this defined and illustrated no better anywhere than we do in our current politics. Most of the people in politics today are defining themselves by what they are not, and they're condemning everything that they can. Friends, that is no way to live. And if animosity is the name of your game, then go make some loving resolutions. You're going to need them. 2019, was it filled with chaos? Then you're fighting a war. Now that war might be your job, it might be your house, it might be your relationship, it might even be with yourself. If you are experiencing chaos, then you need to make some resolutions about having some peace. You're going to need to relieve the chaos, or else that chaos will consume you. On the other hand, peace at all costs makes you a doormat. If you're willing to compromise anything in your life just to maintain peace, then you need to make some resolutions that may start a war. But you need them. Because God created people, God did not create doormats. Stand up for yourself and do it through some 2019 resolutions. Okay, this whole thing boils down to 2020 is going to be what you make it. Friends, you could very easily come to the final Sunday of 2020 and still have the same struggles and concerns that you have today. Or you can resolve not to do that. The question is, do you have the grit and the determination to do something about it? Friends, it takes courage to make a change, and it takes more courage to make the change stick. But it's completely within your power to do it. The only question we have here this morning, as we kind of wrap up the sermon, is, are you willing to do it? Will you resolve to make the change? King Solomon has given you the concept. I gave you the framework, and God has provided the calling. Don't doubt yourself. My friends, these resolutions can make a difference if you'll make them and keep them. So may you go forward during these last few days of 2019, look it over, find out what the problem is, and then courageously Set those resolutions, and let's go into 2020 to set life back in balance. Quite frankly, my friends, the ball is in your court. In Jesus' name, amen.
Darkness tries to roll over all my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, well, I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. She no longer has a place to hide. Captive to lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. Come on, 'cause I won't be shaken. I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name, power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. I'm standing in your love.
Well, my friends, our final word of 2019 and our final word on resolutions is going to be brought to us by a very famous modern-day philosopher, Jedi Master Yoda, who said, when it comes to resolutions, it is do or do not. There is no try. So go forward, my friends, and do it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Boy, it's a little warm up here.